All right, so next up, we are diving into another fireside. We're going to dive into a fireside on strategies for sustainable growth in diversified investment portfolios. Now, leading this insightful discussion is Sultan Ghaznawi, Chairman and Managing Director of Scene Investments, a diversified investment management company that focuses on platform investing based in Saudi Arabia. Sultan's venture building expertise and proactive investment approach has made him a thought leader and an enabler to the Saudi entrepreneurship and investment ecosystem. And guiding our conversation as the moderator is managing partner at ATX Venture Partners, Chris Schonk. He is a multi-exit entrepreneur with acquisition, private equity, and IPO exits. Player turned coach and a venture capital investor, ATX is based in Austin, Texas, out of their fourth fund, managing 650 million AUM. This should be an incredibly inspiring talk. Please welcome to the stage our speakers.
We need to, I think she's asking us to change places.
Oh. Is that easier for everyone? Is that just so you don't get confused? Well, thanks for coming out. I think everyone here that's part of the magic is going to appreciate what we're going to talk about here with Sultan. And, sometimes you get to talk to a venture capital investor, a private equity investor. Sometimes you talk to a professional allocator and portfolio builder. Sometimes you talk to a founder. Sometimes you talk to an executive at a company. Sometimes you talk to a board member. Well, today you're going to talk to all those people in one human being. And also, behind this festival, some pretty exciting announcements for everybody who's part of the magic. So, Sultan, would you like to give everybody a little news on what's going on here?
Thank you, Chris. But before I start, I'd like to say something very important that I'm feeling here and living here in Saudi Arabia and being here in Leap, witnessing everything that is happening, year after year. It reminds me of a quote by John F. Kennedy when he said, we will go to the moon not because it is the easy thing to do, but it is because it's the hard thing to do. And under the leadership of Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Vision 2030, I truly believe that Saudi is today the most ambitious nation in the world, and that what we're doing is not just because we want to impact our country alone, but we would like to do it for the better prosperity of humanity as a whole. And we're quite lucky to be living here, and I think everybody has a role to play in this mission. Maybe I'll give you a bit of background, if you would like, on Scene Investments. And I think what makes us unique is, as you said, we come from venture building background. And so we venture built companies across multiple sectors, starting from entertainment and culture through Backyard Experiential, which is today one of the pioneering companies in the Middle East in creating, operating experience centers and museums and so on, using emerging technologies. And then we've built Vibes, which is a co-working space and entrepreneurship program operator that recently merged with the space, creating the biggest co-working network and entrepreneurship program operator in the region. And lastly, we venture builded Awide, which you recently joined us at the booth. And Awide is the first multi-asset, multi-market, single investment platform that allows you to invest in the US stock market, as well as investing in diversified types of fund from private equity, real estate, and so on. And during that journey, we've been proactive investors, and we follow something called a platform investing approach.
So that, I think, is very exciting and very well timed. I mean, I think anyone here with some success always thanks others involved in being in the right place at the right time, which is a product of being smart and having good information and a good network. So tell us a little bit more about platform investing. What is that?
So the concept of platform investing is the act of co-investing and or co-building a platform with a leader in that specific asset class. And so maybe one of my partners and amazing mentors, Hussam Shabukshi, who is the CEO of Uswa Capital, which we're lucky to be partners with, with his background in investment banking and and so on. He's truly a world-class expert when it comes to global equity and local public equity investments. And by partnering up with people like Hussam and our other partners in Camel Lab, which is our venture builder that is focused on fintech and in PropTech, and with Abdullah Zamil in our venture capital fund and so on. So working with those asset class specific pioneers allows us to do what we do best, which is orchestrating synergies and amplifying value creation. And we do so by supporting our portfolio company, because we come from a venture building background. We've been in the challenges that those entrepreneurs face, and me and you had a conversation about that. So assisting them in regulatory navigation, strategy advisory, fundraising, growth hacking, and a very important one is executive talent sourcing. And in a very competitive market, I think those type of supports can really hedge risk for the founder and assist him in hacking his growth or her growth much faster.
I think that resonates with a lot of people. I know it resonates with me. And a point you brought up that I just can't help but get a kind of a soft spot for is when you are an entrepreneur and you're trying to build your company, you've got so much to do. And you having been an entrepreneur that's rallied talent, put together the capital, built the company and scaled it, and then ultimately got everyone to the destination and changed the lives of all those involved. When these entrepreneurs come out and they need to find their debut partner for this intimate thing called your first priced round, where the company has a valuation, it's the first material check, they're going to bring somebody and put them on their board. I know how important that is, especially with the best entrepreneurs in a mature market. They don't tolerate tourist lead investors. They really want somebody who's been in their shoes. So I think that is very fantastic to hear. And I think your platform investing ability gives you such a network of interesting things that are going on that could be helpful across the span of what you're doing at Scene. How do you identify the sectors that you're going to invest in and where you're going to put your resources and time and attention?
There's a very interesting saying that I really like. Wealth without purpose is wealth without soul. And we'd like to claim that we extract our investment soul from the vision, and not to try to bring the vision in the conversation over and over, but truly the Vision 2030 is an inclusive document. It does not just aim to diversify Saudi from oil, but it also aims to create economic, societal, environmental prosperity. And that is very clear in every part of the vision. And from that we extracted our own investment thesis. Yet there are two very important and critical things to watch out for: timing and opportunity cost. I'll give you an example. If we wanted to go and venture build Awayed, which is our fintech platform, back in 2017, probably that would have been a failure because the regulation was not ready. The literacy of the retail investors was not ready. Yet when we venture built Vibes in that same year in 2017, it was, in our claim, very well timed because it was right at the beginning of the venture capital revolution, not just in Saudi, but also in the region. It was right in when we saw the growth of entrepreneurship programs in terms of accelerators, incubators, and so on. And so I believe timing is extremely critical. And the other one is opportunity cost. In a developing market with an ambitious vision like Saudi Arabia, you have so many opportunities across multiple sectors. So how can you, decide which one to go for if both of them are in the right time? And I think, a balanced scorecard with the right criteria can help you navigate with that.
I love that. And in my experience, the most accomplished people that you'll meet in this journey on life are so vigilant about opportunity cost. And the more proficient you are, the more accomplished you are, the higher your opportunity cost, right? So I think we probably all witnessed that because you can't create more time. And we had a really good conversation about everything that Sultan has done and in the sequencing of it. Just real quick in the audience, I want to make this a little bit interactive because this is a special moment here. Who has been too early? Raise your hand. Really, I want to see it. Like who started the company a little bit too early or bought the stock too early or said yes to the girl or the guy too early? Anybody out there? So timing is super duper important, and I think I love your process around that and opportunity cost. So how are you navigating the future, and which sectors should we all be keeping an eye open for?
AI is obviously the big thing, right? And actually, my mentor in AI is right here, Dr. Amr Awadallah, who is, a global pioneer in artificial intelligence. Yet, we don't see AI as an independent sector. We see it as an enabler to all sectors. And, I'll quote also, Avinad, who's the global chairman and CEO of IBM, in his speech yesterday in the opening remarks of Leap, when he said, only 10% of people will actually invent and create something new in AI, whereas 90% of people will leverage AI in order to solve everyday problem and help people live a better life. And also Bill McDermott, who is the global chairman of ServiceNow, also said something really interesting, which is all you need to do is use your intellectual curiosity to ask AI the right questions in order to figure out the right opportunity of how to leverage AI. And with those two, we think that that AI will be a revolution that will have an impact on the world as much as all of the previous industrial revolutions combined. And having that being said, we're quite bullish on multiple sectors that we believe the future will be very prosperous for them. Starting with fintech. I'm a big believer in fintech, especially nowadays AI-enabled fintech. Let me take a step back. You know what's the major issue with finance is? It's risk. And with AI, you'll be able to leverage different AI tools in order to, solve problems for risk by improving operational efficiency, by solving for data modeling, by solving for understanding customer behavior and customer acquisition. And so, I'll give you something very interesting, a piece of information from one of my favorite books. It's called Banking 4.0. It was written by one of our dear friends, Brett King, who's a global renowned futurist. Actually, that book, the president of China, Xi Jinping, quoted Brett in his book from Banking 4.0. And he said, the top 20 banks in the world are growing, in terms of customers, about 3% on average year on year. And in terms of revenue, about 15%. Whereas the average customer growth year on year for a fintech company is about 200%. And the average revenue growth year on year for fintech companies is about 45%. And so the fastest growing financial institutions in the world are fintech companies. And with, we were discussing yesterday with Spiros and Brett how fintech platforms could actually become part of your ID. And how with AI it can, when you're buying something using we were talking about the AI glasses, and so when you're about to go to a restaurant, the AI glasses, understanding your behavior, could tell you should not buy this and buy that because you're about to spend more than what you've budgeted for the month. And so there is a complete revolution that's going to happen in the fintech sector, especially AI-enabled fintech. So fintech is one. The other one, which we're extremely interested in, something called climate resilience. So me and you were discussing, like in America, farmlands, as a result of climate change, are becoming more and more less suitable for farming. And other areas around the world are becoming more suitable for farming. So if you can predict climate change, you can predict where you should invest, whether it was in lands or in technologies. And we've had multiple conversations, you and I, and with some of the great minds here, how Miami, for example, and how climate change is actually threatening the city, and how the governor of Miami has been investing in different forms of barriers. These are different forms of infrastructure resilience caused by climate change. And I believe that this region, Saudi Arabia and the region around it, will play a huge role in fulfilling shortage in the world caused by climate change. And so infrastructure resilience as a theme is a theme that we're very much looking forward for, and we're keeping a very keen eye on. The other one is health tech, and more specifically longevity. Longevity is the science of making people live longer and healthier. And there's a very interesting tech billionaire who exited his company. His name is Brian Johnson. So Brian Johnson, actual age, if I'm not mistaken, is about 47 years old. and he has been investing an average of $1 to $3 million a year in longevity. So there is something called metabolic age. So, for example, your age is, I'm sure you're about 30. So if your age is like, let's say it's 55 years old, your metabolic age could be 70. It depends on how you were taking care of your body. And with longevity as a science, there's a hardware called Biotrex where you can actually go and test what is my metabolic age. And since I became an entrepreneur, I'm very sad to say when I tested my metabolic age, I was about 7 years older, which is like a wake-up call for me, especially when I have a 2-year-old daughter, so I'm more keen on taking care of my health. And so longevity as a science will help you reduce your metabolic age. And this guy, Brian Johnson, has been investing this type of money and have been able successfully to stop his cells to get older. I know it sounds crazy,
wow, it's fascinating.
but there are technologies that everybody can look at, like NAD, for example. It's a form of IV, or you could take it in like pills to actually rejuvenate your cells. I'm just trying to simplify the science there, but we truly believe that longevity will, in the next 10 to 20 years, the average age of a human can get up to 120, and they could get to 120 and be healthy. So imagine what would that do to the world. So, in investment, we always talk about short-term and medium-term and long-term investment. But if you're going to live to 120 years old, what is short-term?
Right.
Something to consider.
Great perspective.
So longevity as a science will not just impact, the health of a human. It will impact, how we look at life as humanity. And I really think it's a theme that one should really look out for. The last one I want to talk about, and again back to my daughter, is child development. Dr. Amr, when he visited my home the first time, a couple of years ago, I had a nightmare for about a week after. Not because of anything, but because of the shocking information of how AI will impact the world. And we've heard also yesterday in the opening remarks from the different chairmen and CEOs, the impact on jobs as a result of AI. A lot of jobs are going to be taken, yet there are a lot of claims that are not verified that a lot of more jobs are going to be created. And there are completely other, different theses whereby, humans will focus on where their passion is, rather than where the opportunity is. And there will be something called universal income, right? And there will be, I'll quote Dr. Amr, a money nirvana. But looking at that, it means that the way I was raised by my family, you need to grow, you need to learn that, you need to focus on finding the right job or exploring your entrepreneurial interest. But if that's going to happen to the world, how should I advise my child? How can I prepare her for an AI future? And I think that's a concern for all parents, not just myself. And so I believe that child development is a sector to truly, to be reckoned with, especially in the AI era. And if you look at, the different themes that I've discussed, they're kind of all interrelated in terms of how the life of humanity will change as a result of climate change, as a result of longevity, as a result of how our children are to be grown up, and so on. And so these are some of the themes that we think that are going to be very important in the future. Not just for creating wealth, but, and again, back to wealth without purpose is wealth without soul. It's also, with the right purpose. Infrastructure resilience is going to help protect humans. Longevity is going to help, humans live healthier, and so on.
I love that. And one of the things we discussed is just how purposeful, and how these themes transcend just making money or these are global, bold problems to solve on behalf of all humanity. And that's where you're spending your time, that's where you're spending your energy, that's where you're building your network. And I think that's fascinating and something that we could all learn from and take advice on. On that AI side, personally, we were talking about that. And there's these two camps because innovation has been around since cavemen and fire, right? And it was the loom, it was the assembly line, computers, now AI, and almost every time people repurpose themselves, like you talked about, back to things that they cared about, and it comes right back to where you are. The last question I'd like to ask real quick here is, what would you advise about building a sustainable and diversified portfolio? Because we do need to wrap it up, and that's the title of our whole thing. So,
just also, as you said, there are times I've sort of tried to summarize it, but I just want to be very clear on a very important concept. So, entrepreneurship or having a career path is the act of creating wealth by deploying your time. Investing is the act of putting your money to work to create wealth. So let's just isolate both, right? Because you're putting your time to create wealth in the first, and then you're putting your money to create wealth in the latter. And I really believe that there is a very important concept, which is making investing a habit and not something that you look at once you get capital. Because if you build it as a habit, then you could, through fractional stock ownership, you could invest 10 riyal in buying a fractional part of a stock. But you can, if you build it as a habit, then when you, at the middle of the month and your salary or your bank account is about to get a little bit shaky and your friends invite you to a restaurant, if you have embedded investing as a habit, then that 500 or 100 riyal that I was about to go and invest it in the restaurant, in the back of my mind, I've already put in my mindset that I have to invest on the 28th of every month, that 500, 250, 1,000 riyal, I will be able to make a more conscious decision in my day-to-day life because I've embedded investing as a habit. And so the first thing I'd like to advise on is to make investing a habit. And the other thing is that with the fintech revolution, investing is becoming very easy because through these different platforms, I'd love to promote one of our platforms, which is Awaid. Awaid is a platform that allows you to, which is like a Robinhood-like platform in Saudi for our non-Saudi friends. It allows you to invest in US stocks or in real estate funds or in private equity funds. And there are so many other platforms that allow you to invest in, fixed deposits and so on. But the first investment you need to make is emergency cash, because that's an investment as well. And then you need to look at your purpose, risk appetite, return required, and duration in order to define your weight. Should I put more in public equity or more in real estate and so on? And based on that, I think you should design your investing strategy.
Wow, what a great conversation. Let's put our hands together for Sultan Ghaznawi.